Jenson Button desperately wanted to join the winner's circle, but was met with a stubborn Michael Schumacher, who said, "Sorry buddy, this seat's taken." Michael Schumacher decided that he was an unstoppable force again after being kind enough to give the others a chance in 2003. He won the first 5 races without breaking a sweat before trying too hard to warm his brakes up in the Monaco tunnel and forgetting that during safety car periods, other drivers were right behind him. He collided with Juan Pablo Montoya and that was his race over, leaving Jarno Trulli to claim his one and only F1 victory, proving once and for all that Monaco is the only track on the calendar where a Trulli train can be successfully utilised. Trulli was so shocked that he'd actually won a race that he was rendered completely speechless, meaning that his Renault teammate Fernando Alonso had to do his post-race interview for him. Trulli's glory wouldn't last long as he then suffered a dreadful run of form, failing to score points in 5 consecutive races, accusing Renault of favouring Fernando Alonso and then getting sacked. He ended the season driving for Toyota, the team that he was joining for 2005 anyway, and again he failed to score any points. Anyway, back to the championship. Michael Schumacher's loss of perfection made him an angry man, and he proceeded to take that anger out on all of the viewers watching at home by winning the next 7 races and disappearing into the distance with his 7th world title. Jenson Button, who was having a very impressive season, tried his best to keep up, but it was to no avail. BAR were one of the shining lights of 2004, going from perennial midfield runners to consistent podium finishers, something that would have pissed Jacques Villeneuve off no end. To paraphrase Steve Harwell from Smash Mouth, the podium start coming and they don't stop coming. Once Button got his first top 3 finish in Malaysia, his confidence skyrocketed, and he ended the 2004 season with a whopping 10 podiums and a 3rd place finish in the Drivers' Championship. He even managed to take a pole position at Imola, but starting P1 in Ferrari territory is like holding a red rag to a bull, and he very quickly realised that starting in front of Schumacher just meant that you'd see him overtake you in 4K resolution. The McLaren team spent half the season figuring out why their car broke down if you so much as sneezed near it, although Kimi Raikkonen did manage to pick up a solitary win at Spa, after Michael Schumacher had won the title at the previous race in Hungary and had effectively checked out. At Renault, Fernando Alonso reminded everyone that he'd be terrifying in a better car by finishing 4th in the championship, preferring consistency over the wild, erratic form that saw his teammate Trulli lose his seat. Over at Williams, Juan Pablo Montoya and Ralf Schumacher spent the season underachieving in a car that looked fast, but wasn't, sporting that weird tusky nose that made it look like a walrus. Walruses can travel up to 22 miles per hour whilst underwater, and that's probably how fast the Williams felt as it travelled down the straights. Although by the time they got to Monza, the car was a lot quicker, and Montoya managed to set the fastest lap of all time with an average speed of 163 miles per hour. Unfortunately, he chose the wrong qualifying session to do this in and ended up 2nd on the grid. Rubens Barrichello was there too. In fact, he won that Italian Grand Prix from pole position. Schumacher's subservient assistant even managed to claim 2 wins in a row, although again, this was after Michael had already won the championship, so it was the equivalent of an older brother letting his younger brother score a couple of goals on FIFA to make it 12-2. And yes, I know that it's not called FIFA anymore, but I'm old and stubborn. Schumacher finally got back to winning ways at the Japanese Grand Prix. I say finally, it was 4 races, but for a guy that had won 12 out of the first 13 outings, this was virtually an eternity. He beat his brother Ralph, who finished 2nd, a man that I can actually use the FIFA analogy on with total accuracy. Button completed the podium and ensured that the BAR 006 was the most reliable bridesmaid on the grid. Montoya got his first and only win of the season at the finale in Brazil, beating his soon-to-be teammate Kimi Raikkonen and the king of the home race curse, Rubens Barrichello, with the Brazilian racing gods being kind enough to actually let him finish this time. It was also Jaguar's last race before being taken over by Red Bull, and to be honest, their last season had been a bit of a disappointment. They finished 7th in the Constructors with 10 points, but they were a long way behind 6th place Sauber, who finished on 34. Jaguar's performance in Brazil typified their season, as both Mark Webber and Christian Klien had miserable races that quite literally clashed. Webber tried to send one down the inside of his teammate and the two collided. Klien's car survived, but Webber's did not. Before I wrap everything up, a special mention should go to Juan Pablo Montoya, who managed to get himself disqualified for 2 races in a row. Although, to be fair to the Colombian, neither of them were his fault. In Montreal, it was due to an irregularity in the brake ducts, and in Indianapolis, it was because of an illegal car change. So Michael Schumacher wrapped up the 2004 title with a superhuman 148 points, which in current money doesn't sound that superhuman, but you only got 10 points for a win back then. It also meant that he'd broken the record for the most points earned by a driver in a single season, a record that he held anyway because of his other superhuman season in 2002. Rubens Barrichello made a return to the runners-up spot, and like I mentioned earlier, Jenson Button finished a very impressive 3rd. This helped BAR to 2nd in the Constructors' Championship behind the dominant force of Ferrari, which meant for the first time both drivers would have single-digit numbers on their cars for next season, as in those days, driver numbers were based on constructor order and not personal choice. As someone who was a bit of a number freak as a child, this revelation fascinated me, and I mean really fascinated me. I was a very weird kid. So there we go then, a look at the 2004 F1 season. If you enjoyed it, please consider leaving a like on there for me, and if you're new around here and you like what you see, why not get subscribed so that you can be notified of future videos like this one. Thank you so much for watching this, I really do appreciate it. Comment below any thoughts and suggestions that you may have, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks once again, take care of yourselves, goodbye.